I'm Sam.
And this is Gabe.
And this is Coaster Wars.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Coaster Wars podcast, where today we're going to be talking about mine train roller coasters.
Oh yeah, this is kind of a unique subset of roller coasters. They're generally speaking a good family coaster, meaning they're not so thrilling to scare off younger kids, but also have enough in them to entertain your adults as well. So, a good family coaster.
I cheated, though. Just a little bit. I kind of went
What's
off the
new?
rails with mine. But that's like the theme of mine train, mine car, coaster.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
it fits the theming. So we're going to go with it.
Well, honestly, it's nothing new with you. You always kind of push the bounds of our themes, I guess. So, but hey, you picked a fun
mine
one.
is in the name of the
Yes,
coaster.
yes.
So I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it for sure.
But we got two fun ones today. So why don't you introduce our fighters this week?
Okay. In the red corner, standing at a max height of 85 feet and reaching a top speed of 43 miles per hour, hailing from the hills of Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and the Gerstlauer Gym, it is Mystery Mine. In the blue corner, standing at a max height of 60 feet and reaching a top speed of 38 miles per hour, hailing from the trees of New Jersey and the aerodynamics gym, it is Runaway Mine Train. Let the fight begin.
So the fighter I'm bringing this week is Runaway Mine Train at Six Flags Great America.
And I am bringing Mystery Mine from Dollywood. These are two very interesting coasters, but they are definitely on the opposite ends of the spectrum as far as age and design and ride experience. Especially with just the design of the trains and everything, I definitely 100% cheated. I'm not even gonna lie, but I don't care. So
yeah, Gabe, he does what he wants, and we kind of just roll with it here at this podcast. But why don't we talk about Runaway Mine Train, since it is, in the traditional sense, what a mine train is. So this guy is at Six Flags Great Adventure. It opened in 1974. It is an aerodynamics ride. It's got a top height of 60 feet. That drop is 39 feet, such a huge drop. And as Gabe said in the intro, a top speed of 38 miles per hour. But I think where this ride really shines is in the history of the ride, and that's something that Gabe really gets into and stuff, since this is an aero mine train ride. So this ride opened with Kings Island. Oh my gosh. Opened with Great Adventure. It is one of their first major roller coasters, and what was different about mine trains when they were normally built before this ride was they were more like dark rides that kind of had multiple lift hills and would pause and interact with different scenes or animatronics and stuff like that. So this was the first of the mine trains to really kind of be a full-fledged roller coaster, and as a result it was bigger and faster and provided a more thrilling experience. And as an addition to that, where this ride was specifically built, it was sort of in the back in the woods, and it really caused that effect of feeling like you were on an out of control mine train. And then besides the history side of things, we could also get kind of into the mechanical side of things. Because this one has existed for so long, they've had to make mechanical upgrades. So when this ride opened, it had something called skid brakes, which I had to look up, but they're basically ceramic plates that would come up and rub up against the bottom of the train. The problem with these is that it's very hard to stop the train when you wanted to stop it. So it would either overshoot the station or it would undershoot the station, and it was even worse in wet weather. So first they started by installing heaters to try and dry off those tracks, but then they finally upgraded to the modern fin braking system, which of course is computer controlled. They're clamps and they're much more reliable. Another thing was it had saloon style doors in the queue lines, which also had safety issues and safety concerns, so those were switched out with the like air gate system that you see on most modern roller coasters nowadays. And then we can also talk about the lift. When it was originally installed, it ran at 100%, 100% of the time, and it created a maintenance nightmare. So it was replaced again with a computer-controlled system that would ramp up that motor when it needed to be ramped up to bring that train up. And so it's kind of just really cool that they have revamped this ride to keep it running throughout the years.
This coaster, it's really funny because we talk about Six Flags maintenance and, especially with the situation with El Toro right next door and all
Yeah.
this and that. It's funny because they've actually stuck a lot of money into this coaster, but I think that is an attest to the people who go to Six Flags Great Adventure regularly. They have basically, I mean, this is a coaster that like maybe your grandpappy rode when he was, growing up, and then now your
Yeah.
dad rode it, and then now you rode it, or your mother, or whatever. So like, there's a lot of different family members who have ridden this. But yeah, this coaster was built and designed in 1974 when our roller coaster legal safety features just weren't an existing thing at the time. So yeah, they've had to
Oh, yeah.
update it and repair it over the years. And I feel like they've done a really good job. They just got new trains for it too as well, like a couple years ago. And those are really cool, like the ones with the handprints all over them and stuff.
Yeah, let me talk
So
about
yeah.
that. I did research into that train. I was wondering what it was for, and I found out that it was a partnership in 2019 with RWJ Barnabas Health and Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey. They repainted one of the trains with the handprints of cancer survivors and cancer supporters. So that was really cool, and it's still running on the track today. And then the rest of the trains are in the original colors that when the ride opened. So those are the original colors. Obviously, they've been repainted. That's why they look so nice, but I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it was a really neat thing. The other interesting thing about this specific roller coaster is, so like you have stated, mine trains have been around for basically as long as they've been building roller coasters, but they were hybrid roller coasters. So a good example of this is the mine train out in Cedar Point. That
Mhm.
is a steel tubular track supported by a wood support system. This was the first mine train that featured an all steel design. It basically minimized the support structure and allowed for the forces to be slightly more intense than some of
Mhm.
the older, more traditional mine trains. And that's another reason why this coaster is so important, is because it is one of the first mine trains to feature a full steel design. So this
Yes.
is when Arrow really started ramping up how they design and build roller coasters. So you could look at this as a stepping stone to coasters like the corkscrew rides or like Demon at Six Flags Great America and so on and so forth. This was a coaster in a step for aerodynamics as they developed their repertoire and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Just a small note about what Gabe was talking about. If you're looking at the mine train, there is a small section that you can see out in front of the ride that goes over the pond, and it looks like wooden supports, but that's actually just a facade that they put over the outside so that it looked more rustic. It is actually fully steel underneath the track. It just looks like wooden supports on the outside.
Yeah, this is definitely one of my more. I rank this higher up on the mine trains that I have experienced. That is for sure.
Oh yeah, with that, why don't I get into the layout of this ride? So you take a left out of that station, and you a left out of the station, and then into the lift hill, and you get a pretty good view from El Toro on the lift hill. And back in the good old days, you would have also seen King Naka's top hat. Unfortunately, you then drop into a descending
Too
helix.
soon. We didn't need to bring that up yet.
It's not there anymore. I'm
I
sorry.
know.
All right, so dropping off of that lift hill, you then drop into a descending helix that is banked and close to the ground. You gain some speed on that, and you come up into what is fundamentally an airtime hill, but it's very long and drawn out, and it does offer some slight floater. But then you head back into a banked right turn, and then you hit a mid course brake run. You then drop down, getting very close to the ground for a banked right turn that then elevates you while you're still turning. You then drop down to gain some more speed, and then go over one of the most aggressive ejector moments. It's not quite zippin' pippin, but me and Gabe were very surprised when we went over this little pop. It's right
It's
over the pond.
slightly aggressive. It's
Yeah,
slightly aggressive.
it just surprised us a little. We're like, holy crap, what was that? And that then sends you into another low to the ground banked left turn before popping up into the final brakes. This element is a lot of fun because, as I said, it's actually over the pond. So it gives you that illusion of like skimming across the water, which is really good. And that is the ride. It sounds like a very simple layout, but again, it's a mine train. It's not meant to be the most big, bad, thrilling thing ever, but it is also completely surrounded by trees. If you consider that this ride was built with the park and then has grown with the park, all of those trees have also grown around this ride. And me and Gabe have said this so many times before, but it gives you that illusion that you're going a lot faster than you actually are.
It's definitely an underrated thing about older roller coasters, or that, like you said, coasters that have been there since the park has opened, because that is a very true fact. As these trees and bushes and everything grows around it, not only does it feel more secluded from the rest of the park, it makes
Oh,
it feel
yeah.
more natural. But
Hmm.
it does make it feel like the coaster is going faster the closer and closer these objects get to the train. I mean, it's not an unsafe thing. Like, you're not going to be able to reach out and
No,
grab the tree. But as
no.
these trees get bigger and they grow and grow, it does make the coaster feel faster. The other thing is the 60-foot tall height. It feels tall. It feels very tall
Yes.
for a mine train. Like, you go up that first lift hill and you get to the top and you like look over the side of the train, you're like, wait a minute, we're actually kind of high up here.
Yes. Absolutely.
and and this train does gain some major speed throughout this layout, especially in the beginning. That 38 mile per hour top speed, it definitely
Hmm.
hits that.
Oh, yeah, very much so. And another thing pointing out when we get up to the top of that lift hill, another thing too is that even the trees, that's kind of like the top of the trees, which just gives you extra illusion because you're like just slightly above the trees and then you plunge back down into them. So yes, it's a very fun ride. And then something I'd also like to mention is because it is a mine train, it's not the most popular of rides, so it also has a shorter line. You usually can get on and off these rides pretty quickly. It's an easy credit to get, and they're usually a lot of fun. Me and Gabe really actually loved this ride. We were really surprised when we got off it. We're like, holy cow, that was a lot of fun.
Pretty sure we rode it like 3 times.
Oh yeah, it was
I know
so
I know we
easy.
rode it at least twice.
Oh yeah, I know at least twice. It probably was 3 times.
It is a very fun and enjoyable family coaster, and I think it's a little bit more thrilling than some of the other mine trains I've been on. I think the biggest thing it lacks is a lot of these mine trains end up becoming terrain coasters, but
Hmm.
because Six Flags Great Adventure is so flat, but that's why I feel so tall. I think
Yeah, I think you're
because it
right.
is it
They actually had to build it up. It wasn't like sitting on top of a hill. So
yeah, because like even like the Whizzer at Six Flags Great America, which I know is a completely different coaster. Like, that one is still like somewhat of a terrain coaster.
yeah,
The mine train we rode at Six Flags over Georgia, that's an
yeah.
aero mine
Oh
train,
yeah.
and that one's built like right up and down the hills, so it stays
Yep.
really close to the ground. But this one, it feels tall. Like, you can feel the height of this roller coaster.
Oh yeah. Before we move on here, I do want to talk about when I was doing all the research for this ride, I did come across what the original design for this ride is, and I'm like, I want them to make this coaster so bad. So, when they were originally designing the park, this was originally going to be a medieval themed section of the park. And this ride would have an element where you plunged into the mouth of a dragon. And I was like, please, someone somewhere make this ride because it sounds so freaking cool. But of course, they didn't have the budget for that. So it was all scrapped, and they had the section that now goes over the lake, and it was planned as the mine train and stuff. But instead of going over the lake, they were going to put a tunnel under the lake. And I was like, again, please, someone out there make this roller coaster. But of course, they did not have the budget for that either. So the idea was scrapped, and we're left with what we have today, which is still an enjoyable experience.
Cedar Fair would have done it.
Yes, they would have. That's hilarious.
But with that, I guess we can transition over into the Mystery Mine.
Yes.
So the Mystery Mine is a Gerstlauer amusement park ride Eurofighter. So this is their newer version of the Eurofighter with basically, instead of being a long train with multiple cars, it is just one single car with 2 rows. And this is where I say I cheated a little bit because it's definitely not a train.
Yeah.
So we're going to say this is the Mine Train episode, and then I can put this in there.
Yeah. It has mine in the name. It counts.
Yes, exactly. This is one of the more strange coasters at Dollywood.
Yeah.
Just with the layout and everything.
I don't think anything at Dollywood is normal by roller coaster standards.
No, but it pushes. I think it's definitely one of the more weird ones.
It is. Yes, it is.
So this is one of my favorite Gerstlauers, though. I absolutely love this roller coaster. I know a lot of people complain about the first half being pretty boring, which, let's be honest, it is. But that finale is insane. Why don't we just dive right into the layout of this roller coaster? How about that?
Yes.
Okay, so this coaster starts with a little pre-drop and pre-lift section. I'm not going to tell you guys a lot about it because it's in like really pitch black darkness. And even if I were to watch a POV of it, I could not tell you where it goes.
Yeah.
But it basically goes up and down, does some turns. You go past some special effects. It's more of like a dark ride experience at the very beginning than an actual roller coaster. And then you come around a corner and you get locked into its first lift hill. And you get lifted all the way up and you get dropped down. And there's a little pre-drop. And then you roll into another little airtime moment before going through a block break section. You then drop down and pop up into a banked turn, and then you pop up into a upward helix, where you go through another block break section. You then drop down into another small helix, and then you drop down and pop back up into an airtime moment. You do another little S-bend, and you go back inside the building. Now, like I said, this beginning section is pretty kind of lackluster. It just kind of goes back and forth. It doesn't do a whole lot. But then after that, you get locked into another vertical lift hill. And then you get some more special effects. And it cranks you all the way up. And this is the tallest point on the roller coaster. It flashes lights at you and stuff. And it makes thunderstorm noises. It's really cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool moment, and then it stops and hangs you over the edge of the drop because the drop's beyond vertical.
Because every one of these rides hates me for some reason. I hate this. I hate it. The dive coasters do it too. It's dumb. It's stupid, but I still ride them, so it must say something.
Yeah, so basically it lifts you up over the top of the vertical lift hill, and then it stops you while you're facing down. Then a big fireball explosion goes off, and it releases you, and you go through the beyond vertical drop, and you pop up into an inline twist, which then continues to rotate up into a dive loop. However, it is so long and drawn out, you just really, really hang there. And it's also the tallest point before you go back towards the ground, so the train is going at a very, very slow pace. And then you dive back towards the ground, you pop up into a little airtime moment, and that is the end of the roller coaster.
I think
it's a simple layout.
It's a relatively simple layout, but I think we have talked about this before. If you have a couple of very well done elements, it can make a roller coaster a spectacular ride, even if the whole thing isn't blowing you out of the water for every second. So I think that's what this ride does. Is it has some really well done elements that make it a good overall experience. And then, as you all know, I am the theming queen, and this ride has a ton of theming. So I actually do really enjoy this ride. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, being located at Dollywood, obviously most of their roller coasters have really, really good theming. But I think it's the combination of the inside where you're going through more of like a dark ride section, and then you come
Mm-hmm.
outside, and then you go back inside. They do a really good job with this ride of really immersing you in the feeling of like you're in this mystery mine with all these different special effects and explosions and stuff. And then like at the end, it's a real fireball. Like it's not a
Yeah.
fake screen thing. Like it's a real fireball that comes out, and then like
And you
basically
can feel the
you,
heat from that. Like,
yeah. That's a really cool one. I think one of my favorite parts is definitely that whole second lift section, because like I said, you go back inside the building, then it starts making like the ambience of like you're in a thunderstorm, and there's lights
mm-hmm.
flashing and stuff like that. And then you go up to the top, and like I said, that fireball goes off, and just the finale of this roller coaster is so good. It is like it's one of the best finales ever. It just sucks that the beginning section is so boring.
Yes. If they could just
But
somehow have transferred that ending throughout the entire roller coaster, it would have made the whole thing a spectacular experience. But that said, it's still a lot of fun. And you talking about the fireball thing, when a roller coaster has real fire, it just somehow makes it just a slightly more exhilarating. And
oh,
unfortunately,
100%.
Gabe has not ridden this roller coaster, and hopefully we'll get down there and we'll be able to ride it. But I also think of the Mummy at Universal Studios, and there's a section of that ride where literally the entire ceiling lights on fire, and it's actual fire, and you're like, holy crap, that's really hot. I might actually be lit on fire at this moment in time. So it just adds an extra, like, of course there's no way, like, they have all the safety precautions and all that jazz, but like for a second you're like, oh my god, I'm in actual real danger.
Yeah. I just this coaster does have some really really good theming. It's in a very cool location in the park too, because it's kind of built into the side of a hill, and it's just I feel like it's a very underrated roller coaster at Dollywood. I know they have a lot of great coasters at Dollywood. That's why we love that park so much.
Yes.
But I feel like it gets a lot of hate because of that beginning section. But the end of this roller coaster is truly something you need to experience. Just the hang time too, because like you get the
Oh.
inline twist and you hang there for like a little bit, but then you keep going up, like you keep gaining elevation, and you
Mm-hmm.
continue to roll into that dive loop, and then the dive loop like gets completely flat before it actually like dives back down.
Oh
So
yeah.
like you are just hanging there from your restraint, and you're like, I hope we don't get stuck up here. Like it goes so slow too. Like it's so slow, and it's just you're hanging you there, like almost to the point where you feel like you're gonna get stuck upside down, and then it dives back towards the ground. And that airtime pop in the front row at the end there
Oh
is a pretty good
yes.
little airtime moment.
Talking about that dive loop, I'm looking at a picture right now, and it's like you could tell just by looking at it, it's like stretched out, so it's more of an oval shape than like a regular circle shape that you would get. And just, yeah, the couple seconds where you're up there is just absolutely crazy. And then it has a picture of the building and stuff, and the building even itself is really cool to look at, and you can see the big mystery mine sign when you come up walking up on this coaster. And then talking about how some of the track is hidden inside of this building, so you can see this big dive loop, but you basically, from this picture at least, you can't see any of the other parts of this ride. So it really is a mystery as to what this dang thing all does to you. So that's a level of mystery that you don't get on some rides, just because you can see all of the track by the nature of a roller coaster. So like, I think that part of it's fun too.
Yeah, it's just a very well done ride. Like I said, even the theming in like the queue line before you get on the roller
Mm-hmm.
coaster, just all kinds of different designs and little features and stuff, and you get to look at all just the facade of the building and everything, and it just feels like a mine. Like it feels like you're about to step into a mine and get like
Oh yeah.
dropped down a mine shaft. Like that's
Yes.
legitimately what it feels like. Dollywood always does a very good job with their theming, even with like lightning rod and like a
Oh
hot
yeah.
rod shop and stuff like that. That's one
Yes.
of the reasons, like I said, we love Dollywood so much, because of the level of theming that they go to.
Oh
But
yeah.
this roller coaster, like I said, if you consider the entire ride from start to finish, it is a very well done, very well themed, very enjoyable roller coaster. The thing that I always said about the first half is it kind of lulls you to sleep a little bit in a, like a good
Yeah.
way. Because, like, you go through, especially if you go into this not really knowing what you're about to experience, you go out, you go through the whole dark ride section, you get lifted up, you go through that first really boring section of the roller coaster, and you're like, well, this is just basically like a family roller coaster.
Yeah.
This is not a thrill ride, right?
Yep.
So I'm fine, I'm good, and then you come up and you see that there's a second lift hill, then you start questioning it, and then you get dropped out of the building, and you realize, like, holy cow, this thing is actually a thrill roller coaster. Like, it surprises you.
It goes upside down twice.
Yeah. Like, you don't even realize that until you come back out of the building the second time, and you're like, oh, this is actually really fun. So I think a lot of people like to take away from this coaster because of the first half. I actually like to add to it, because for people, like, especially the GP who doesn't, like, research every single roller coaster they're going to ride at a park.
Yeah.
It surprises you, and sometimes that's nice, I feel like, to have a surprise at the end or a surprise in the middle of the roller coaster that, like, catches you off guard. I think it adds to the experience.
It reminds me of my experience with Flight of Fear, and this is still at the beginnings when I was still getting into coasters with Gabe, and he did research on the park, but he didn't know what Flight of Fear was. And it was just, I remember we came up on the station and we're like, oh my god, it's a launch coaster. And then we got into the rest of the ride and I was like, Gabe, it goes upside down. So it yeah.
So when I was looking at the lineup or whatever, I would just look at all the rides in the park. I wouldn't filter just by, like, roller coasters or thrill rides or whatever. So when I came across it, the only picture they had of the roller coaster wasn't even of the roller coaster. It was of the giant spaceship entrance.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I just assumed, oh, this is an indoor dark ride. That's all it is. It's not even, I didn't even think it was a roller coaster at the time. I just kind of, like, completely skipped right over it. Not realizing, and like Sam said, this was before we were really super into roller coasters.
Yeah.
So, like, we got in line and you still can't see the ride, like,
nope.
at all. And then you come around and you get into the station and you start seeing signs for, like, keep your head back, arms down, and I'm like, wait a minute, I think this is a launch coaster. And then you come around the corner and you see it launch and you're like, oh yeah, it's definitely a launch coaster.
Yep. So I imagine the experience could be something very similar on this ride, especially with that first half, just like Gabe said, lulling you to sleep, setting in a false sense of security, and then you go up the second bigger lift hill into a taller drop that is beyond vertical, and you're just like, oh my god, what did I get myself into?
We didn't even talk about the drop.
Oh my gosh.
That drop is so good. It is a very forceful, whippy drop.
Yes.
The one thing that I feel like is different than compared to some of the other Beyond Vertical drops, like, a good example of this would be Cannonball.
You mean Cannibal?
Cannonball. Inside jokes, people.
Yes. It's Cannibal at Lagoon. Don't listen to
Cannibal
Gabe.
at Lagoon. It has the magnetic fins to, like, really slow you because it's so steep. With this one, it kind of, like, stops you at the top of the drop, and then it lets you go. So you gain a little bit more speed. You kind of get, like, whipped over the rest of the drop, and it's a very forceful and ejector moment. And then it sends you up into that inline twist and dive loop. And I feel like
with Cannibal, it's more of like a floater feeling, even though it is beyond vertical. And then with this one, like you said, it's very whippy and it, like, pulls you so fast through this drop.
Yeah, it's like a jerk or an ejector moment. It really is. Like, it jerks you out of your seat. Like, it throws you out of your seat. It's not like just a gentle roll over the top of the drop.
No, not with this one.
So, I think it's a really good drop, really good inline twist, and a really good dive loop on a coaster with really great theming.
Oh, yeah. So, with that, Gabe, we've reached the end of this episode, and who do you think wins this battle?
This coaster is definitely going to be Mystery Mine. I love the don't get me wrong, I love the history of the Runaway Mine Train. I love the ride experience. It's definitely up there, in my opinion, but I cheated for a reason, so I'm taking my winner, Mystery Mine.
No, I think I have to agree with you. As much as we love mine trains, Mystery Mine is just going to be the more thrilling experience in this case. And even from my point of view, it has more theming than the mine train does. And it just is an overall really thrilling, exciting experience. That to being said, if you come across a mine train at any park, I do think you should give it a chance and ride it, even if it seems like it might be a family/kiddie coaster, because a lot of the times they're just fun. So
They
that's my
are,
2 cents.
and they are. I think they're very enjoyable. I think it's a great change of pace too, especially if like you're at a park like Six Flags Over Georgia and you just rode Superman and you just rode Goliath and you just rode like
Georgia
the Mine
Scorcher.
Bender, Georgia Scorcher. It's like, oh, you can go over there and get on the mine train, and they all have their own little unique
Oh
thing that
yeah.
makes them so interesting. Every single mine train that we've ridden on. So I definitely think they are coasters to ride at any theme park.
Oh yeah. But with that, why don't we get into future episodes? What have we got coming up, Gabe?
That's a good question. Oh, our next episode is going to be janky but fun. Unfortunately, the coaster that I will be bringing to this battle no longer exists. It went
No,
defunct
I
this year.
know. This is
Sam
sad.
did not get to experience it. The other coaster we're bringing to this is probably a coaster you've never heard of.
A coaster you've never heard of, but by definition, perfectly fits. Like, if you opened up a Webster dictionary, there'd be a 4x6 glossy of this roller coaster under the word janky.
Yes, for
So,
sure. After that, it looks like we have a Coasters 101 episode, so we're going to stick to that 2 battle episodes, followed by 1 special episode. We're going to be talking about Intamin, everything Intamin, from start to finish.
not to mention that's probably at least going to be an hour-long episode. I mean, come on, it's
100%.
Intamin.
We're going to try and squeeze it in an hour, but we'll see on that one.
We might have our second 2-episode special coming up, just to warn you guys.
I wouldn't go that far, but
who knows?
I know
Anyways.
there's a lot to talk about Intamin, but you can kind of go through it rapid fire too. And
yeah, that's a good point. And
I think an hour would be a good
okay. We'll shoot
target
for an hour.
that episode. Yes, we'll see.
But then going even further into the future, we do have our 6th episode is going to be custom layout arrows. So that'll be a really fun historical episode for any of our historical buffs out there. We've got 2 great arrows coming. And then even further into the future, our 7th episode is going to be tunnels. So they are going to be roller coasters.
I cheated again.
Yeah.
It has a tunnel. It's very short, but it does go underground, okay?
It does. It goes below grade, so we'll give it to you. So, and then I think I'd like to tease here, Gabe, because we are taking a huge roller coaster trip this summer. So I think we explained this kind of in our episode coming back for the 2nd season, but we're going to be doing seasons from now on, taking the summer off. So we will be gone for the summer, but we're going to be taking a huge roller coaster trip. We're going to be visiting so many parks is not even funny. So we're going to have a whole new list of coasters to talk about when we come back for that 3rd season.
Oh yeah, that's going to be fun. We're talking like 10 or 11 amusement parks in 14 days. Like we're going to be so tired. It's going to be a vacation that we need a vacation from.
Oh,
but
hell yes.
That being said, we are about to ride. Hold on. I have the total.
Oh, you do? Oh, great.
Yes, I have the total. I gotta find. Let me pull it up on my phone.
While he's doing that, I should also tease this is going to be our first quote-unquote international trip because we are going to Canada for this one. So
coaster trip extravaganza. Let's see. So we are going to be doing over 2,300 miles in a car, and we're going to be riding over 120 different roller coasters. Now, some of these will be rewritten roller coasters. Some of these will be brand new credits. There is one park that Sam's already been to that I have not, Hershey Park. So I think so. the one nice thing is that every park we're going to be going to is going to have at least one coaster. I think there's only like one park where it'll be all the same coasters that we've been on.
Yes. But are you talking about Hershey? Because Hershey didn't get a new one this year, right?
No, Hershey Park did not get a new one. Kings Island did not get a new one.
Okay.
And then Kentucky Kingdom, you've technically already been to.
Yeah, but I only rode Run Coaster when I went, so.
That's right. So we still got to get on. Yeah, there's a lot of different coasters that could go through the list of anticipated coasters. But
oh yeah, what'll probably happen is once we get out of recording season, I'll probably still be updating our socials, and I'll probably be putting out what parks we're visiting and stuff like that, and maybe like a highlight of the trip, like what was our favorite coaster at the park or something like that, just to kind of keep the social media up and running. And who knows, if I decide to get into it, I might even post little TikTok videos of the coasters or something. I'll have to think about doing that. But
and there's definitely going to be other trips this summer, I think. I plan on trying to get out to Valley Fair this year just because I have the all parks passport now. Out in Minnesota, that one's not a very unachievable park for me to get to. I'd like to get back to the East Coast at some point.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen this year though. And then obviously Magic Mountain's always been on my list to get to. So
yes.
Who knows where we'll end up? You never know.
Exactly. I know. I'm currently working in Louisville, which isn't horribly far. I'd probably have to take 2 days to do it, but I could go back to Dollywood if I wanted to. So.
Oh, you could. Dollywood,
yeah.
you could maybe get out to some of the Virginia parks that I've been meaning to go to for a while.
That's a good point. So. I haven't been to Busch Gardens yet, so.
Busch Gardens or King's Dominion. Those are definitely on my lists. King's Dominion just got a new roller coaster.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, we got all kinds of stuff to do.
They got a new wing coaster.
Okay. Well, with that, guys, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with Janky But Fun, and thank you all for listening.
Have a great day.